just at the outset, just to declare an interest, I'm an estate agent, so I've been involved in buying and selling property in the past. Welcome, Mr. Moran, and thank you for your presentation. Can I ask you if I was to commission yourselves and 9 other property valuing companies, will I be likely to get the same answer from all 10 people?
No.
Why is that?
The correct academic answer is because valuation is an inexact science.
Okay.
But it will be down to assumptions that have been made around the piece of real estate that's been valued and opinion.
Okay. So is it fair to say or not that there are bounds within which, in valuation, there is no wrong answer?
I think if you ask those 10 people that same question, they should all be relatively within a very, very close percentage of each other.
What kind of percentage would you say?
You would expect valuations, there should be, the rule of thumb that's used within the industry is nobody should be out by more than 5%.
Okay. If you were commissioned to do a valuation by a developer or a bank or anybody else, would you accept a client brief in advance?
You might explain to me what you mean by client brief.
Well, if I was developing company A and I was buying site B and I wanted bank D to finance that, would you prepare the valuation that would be required for me to assist me in securing 70% finance on that?
The valuation would be prepared for the developer, yes, with it, and then presumably what the developer does with the valuation, or not presumably, we know what the developer does with the valuation is he provides it to the bank.
So within the bounds of no wrong answer, that 5% threshold, would it be Jones Lang LaSalle policy to focus on the higher end of that 5% threshold rather than the lower to facilitate the developer in that instance?
Absolutely not.
So what determines that?
What we do when we undertake evaluation is we give our true, fair and accurate representation of what we think that property is worth in the market. I think if you consulted with my peers, or if you consulted with the financial community or the developer community, we would be known for being at the conservative end of the market, not at the aggressive end of the market. And we take our responsibilities very, very seriously. So we also realise that now, in particular, you have a duty of care to the bank and the financial institution as well. So, do valuers get pressured by developers to increase their valuation figures? Absolutely, they do. Our policy is we will resign from an instruction if that happens.
You're above reproach in that regard?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Did you ever prepare in an application process for a major syndicate for many hundreds of millions for financing?
I would have prepared valuation reports, yes, for syndicates that were, yes.
Preparing to purchase?
Preparing to purchase, yeah.
And would that be in the kind of 200 to $1 billion category or lower?
Certainly not up to $1 billion, no. But certainly would have been involved in syndicated deals of up to and over 200 million, yes.
Okay, you mentioned in your testimony earlier that syndicates came together to purchase property which, if I'm quoting you correctly, you said were out of reach of the individual. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as a result of properties being out of reach of individuals, is it your view or not that syndicates came together so that they could afford this, or to increase the potential of leverage for less collateral, if you like, from the individual?
It was probably a combination of both.
Okay. Do you think as a result of that, that syndicates coming together fueled the boom?
I think they played a part in it, yes.
Okay. In 2000 to 2001, that area, the government of the day were preparing a national spatial strategy. Did Jones Lang LaSalle make a submission to that?
I'd have to check that for you, I can't recall.
Okay. Is it your view that the National Spatial Strategy, which at the time you may recall involved a call for public submissions and individuals or county councils or auctioneers or anybody else could give that, and then it was prepared, as I understand it, by the Department of the Environment with some input from spatial planners from Denmark or other such expertise that was procured by the state at the time. It stated, and just give me a little bit of latitude here, Chairman, that towns like Sligo, for example, would have to prepare an infrastructure for a population of 100,000 people by the year 2020. And obviously that was mirrored in other towns and villages and cities throughout the country. To what extent do you feel, this analysis was wrong? Why was it wrong? And to what extent did it fuel the policy agenda of the day that led to the property boom?
Pause before I answer.
Could you comment upon that rather than take the lead of a question?
Yeah,
Your view on it.
The spatial strategy at the time, I think everybody in the profession was well aware of it. It enabled towns as gateway towns. So it was pro-development to the extent that people were anticipating that population growth. I think where the issue arose is it was very, very difficult. We had a rapidly growing population, if you recall at the time. We had quite significant immigration into the country, so there was a view afoot that the population was going to continue to expand and that we were going to have to provide both residential and commercial accommodation to all these new population centres. Hindsight proves that we were completely wrong. Did it assist in fueling development in locations where perhaps development wasn't sustainable otherwise? Absolutely. And one thing that I will state, and which I feel quite strongly about, is there's been a lot of blame delivered at the doors of the banks, at estate agents, at developers, and various other stakeholders. The town planners in this country are also equally as culpable for fueling the development boom. Planning policies were extraordinarily lax. They were difficult and virtually impossible and incoherent in a number of sections, and they certainly, in a chase for rate sinking and a chase for each town wanting to outdevelop each other, they led to completely and totally unsustainable development.
Yeah, you mentioned that Jones Lang as well, don't comment on the future. In July 2007, the then chairman said, well, accepting house prices might fall 10%, the prospects for next year for commercial property look very promising. Do you believe the assessment by the ESRI that there was going to be a soft landing? Did you believe that at the time? Did your clients? And to what extent do you believe the comments of your then chairman? I don't know whether it's the current chairman or not, but we're allowed to mention names here.
So
to what extent were those
over time.
comments providing false confidence to the market?
I'd reiterate, we believed that there would be a soft landing. We thought that values would fall by 5 to 15%, not by, as I said, 70%. We were aware of all the economic commentary that was in the marketplace, but what nobody, certainly in Dublin anyway, was aware of was what was happening globally. We weren't aware that Lehman Brothers were about to collapse. We weren't aware that there was going to be a credit crunch. And we certainly weren't aware that the banks had overlent in every aspect of real estate, which led to the cataclysmic events that we've actually endured. And what we've just been through in the property market is unprecedented. It has never happened before. And we knew there was an adjustment coming, but certainly not of the magnitude that we've currently undertaken.